So it's the beginning of December, and I've been contemplating what I want to read for this last month of the year, and I have focused my list, I guess, my TBR in a way, to 3 categories. The first being books that I have started but haven't finished yet, that I would like to finish this year. Secondly, which kind of coincides with the first thing, are books that pertain to series I'm in the process of reading. And thirdly, are books that I said I was going to read this year and then didn't end up picking up. Whether that be books that I said in a video that I was going to read or just to myself. So, a good number of books here. I like options, but also at least it's focused enough in a way. I still feel like I'm not gonna get to all these books that I'm about to put in this video, but this is just what I am contemplating, what I'm thinking about for this last month of the year. Which, honestly, December and January are usually great reading months for me. I think partially that's just because of the amount of booktube content that I end up watching, and all the end of the year videos where people name their favorites and their worst reads of the year and what they're excited about for the next year. That is so exciting and motivating. So then January is just a great reading month, and I love the winter time for reading. Honestly, I do. Getting started with the first category, books that I am not finished with yet. The Power of the Dog by Thomas Savage, which I made the mistake of making, in a way, the book that I brought with me when I babysit, to read between the time the kid goes to bed and the mom gets home. Honestly, the last handful of times that I've been, scheduled, so to speak, to watch him, the mom got home earlier than usual and didn't have a super late night, or plans were changed, things came up, and I didn't have to babysit. It was canceled, essentially. So I haven't really read this much. I'm pretty much still where I was this summer. I'm on page 103, but it is pretty fast going, and I like the spacing and just the way that the text is on the page. Then, remember this? Perfume, The Story of a Murderer by Patrick Süskind. I started this last October, and then we got into the holiday season, and I just wasn't feeling it. I was like, it's not the right time for this. I'm gonna put it down. And I meant to finish it in October, and that didn't happen. I have read a couple of chapters, since not picking it up for a year, but, I'm still, halfway through. So, going to finish that. Thankfully, it's very, visceral in the descriptions, and just the imagery is incredible. Also kind of gross, but awesome at the same time. Really good. Honestly, it's going to be a new favorite book, I already know, even though I've been in the process of reading it for a year, which sounds ridiculous, but it's really good. And I was saying, so visceral that I don't need any refreshers. It's just I start reading again and everything just comes flooding back to me that I've already read. And then next I have The Elephant Man by Bernard Pomerance, which I finally have a copy of. I actually started reading this at my cousin's house. I was reading her copy when I was taking care of my cousin's dog and they were away. I binge read Heartstopper, and then I was like, I'm gonna read a book that isn't mine, that I can read while I was there in the last day, basically, that I was there, except they came home kind of early and I only got halfway through. I thought about asking to borrow it, which probably would have been fine, but I knew from what I had already read that I wanted to underline things and annotate, so I just put it down, put it back on my cousin's shelf, and decided to get a copy of my own. Except I didn't get a copy until now. Literally, I've had this maybe a week. So, I finally have it. Going to be reading it. It's only 60 pages. It's a play. I don't know if I mentioned that. My mom and one of my mom's friends and I are going to go see a local school production of The Elephant Man. So, time to actually finish reading this. I'm going to start it over, but this is on my list of things to get to. And we're going to the play in a week. like a week. So we'll be reading that this week. So those 3 are higher priority, but I also have 3 short story collections that I'm in the middle of. In October, I started The Vampyre by John Polidori and Other Tales of the Macabre by other, various authors, but I did read The Vampyre. I started the second story, which is called Sir Guy Eveling's Dream by Horace Smith. I needed to start it over. I read, the first page and a half, and I was like, I don't know why I am not grasping this. The writing is so of the time, and I really never have trouble with classics, but I don't know, maybe I just wasn't in the right mindset, because sometimes it can be jarring if you're reading something a lot more contemporary, or watching a lot of recent things, and then suddenly you read a classic that's hundreds of years old, not just 50 or 80 or 100 years old. I'd like to get further into this. Possibly. Either last year or 2 years ago, I read Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson, and I just listened to the audiobook and read along with a free ebook or something like that, since it's in the public domain. But then I did end up getting this short story collection, and there's 2 other short stories in it, The Bottle Imp and Markheim, so I can read those. And then I also read 1.5 stories in Saints and Strangers by Angela Carter. This is really short. I mean, this entire collection is 100 pages. These are options. Then these next 2 books are books that I'm in the middle of, that I've started. But they also are books that are in series that I'm in the process of reading. So, of course, they're both vampire series. I'm sure you know if you've been watching my videos. I don't have the dust jacket on this right now because I've been reading it this weekend. Finally, The Vampire Armand. Oh my goodness. I think I've said this before, but I just really put this off because I wanted to physically read it while also listening to the audiobook. It's the first time that I have a book in the Vampire Chronicles at the same time that I'm actually reading it, in the with where I am in the series. I have now Interview with a Vampire, and I have a mixed match collection so far just because I'm getting them. I found random books in the series used, so I don't have The Vampire Lestat or The Queen of the Damned yet, but I have Interview with a Vampire and The Tale of the Body Thief, but I didn't have those at the time that I was actually reading those books, and so this is the first book that I have where that's the case, and I was I get to read the words along with listening to them, and Anne Rice's writing is just absolutely beautiful. It's so decadent and opulent, just like the things that she's describing a lot of the times. So emotional as well. Emma from the channel, Emmy, recently read Interview with a Vampire, and just the way that she was talking about Anne Rice's writing, and Louis Louis with his existential crisis and all these questions that he has. It made me, I love it when other people read favorite books of yours and they just rave about it. So I was I need to pick up. That's actually what kind of made me want to really focus on this weekend. Anyway, I was saying that I kept putting this off though, because whenever I would read something, I would read something that I only have physically. Whenever I was in the mood to read, I kept picking up books that I only have physically. And then whenever I wanted to listen to an audiobook, or when it was an opportunity to listen to an audiobook, I couldn't read The Vampire Lestat because I was well, I told myself that I would read it at the same time, physically, that I was listening to the book. So, finally, I'm doing both as much as I can. I actually have this weird tradition in a way now for the past few years of listening to whatever book in the Vampire Chronicles I'm on and decorating for Christmas. It just happens to be the time that I started reading the books. I distinctly remember taking down Christmas decorations when I started, or when I was in the beginning of The Vampire Lestat, the second book. Yeah, and maybe that's also one of the reasons why I'm like, all right, time for Vampire Chronicles, like, even though I've been, like, reading them throughout the years. So I am going to finish this month, and also read Vittorio, which I'm sure is, like, a lot shorter, I think. Pandora was quite short, and those are both, like, the Tales of the New Vampires. Is that what the like series was sort of called? But then, like, they kind of like were like, no, we're just gonna make it all the Vampire Chronicles. Anyway, Vittorio is next in the overall Vampire Chronicles, and I do plan on reading those two at least in December. I would love to start The Witching Hour, which I didn't bring down, but I do have it. It's fine. I have it. I'll get it. Here. This is my Vampire Chronicles section. So, this is the cover of the Vampire Armand, since I had the dust jacket off. Look at this behemoth. This is huge. This audiobook is like 50 hours. I've never listened to an audiobook that long before. I love the cover. So I would at least like to start this in December. Maybe get like halfway through, because January 8th, I'm pretty sure, is when The Mayfair Witches is premiering on AMC and will be available on AMC Plus. I mean, this is gigantic. How many seasons is it going to take to just adapt this? This is almost 1,000 pages. No way. 54 chapters. That's pretty good, though. Her chapter length, like, really fluctuates, as far as I can tell so far with The Vampire Armand. 965 pages. Interview with a Vampire is, like, this big. And that's gonna take at least 2 seasons to fully tell that story. How many seasons is it gonna take for just The Witching Hour? So I want to make some progress on this before the show. Hopefully I can get to some of it in December. But in any case, that first week of January, this is what I'm focusing on. This is it, okay? Blood Promise, the 4th book in the Vampire Academy series. I would like to finish this month, but honestly, I'm really focused on the Vampire Chronicles, so this could just end up falling to the wayside, and then I will get back to it at another time. I planned on, like, binge reading this, but then, like, the series, and I got, like, halfway through. I think I just kind of didn't like the way the 3rd book ended, and I was like, oh no, is this the direction we're going in? I'm planning on making, like, a video about it. I've been filming, like, essentially, like, wrap-up thoughts after finishing each book, and then I'm just gonna put that all together into, like, a sort of vlog, even though I started reading the series in, like, October. I read the first 3, like, fairly quickly, and then, yeah, I just don't think, I'm nervous about where it's going. In any case, that's Blood Promise, the 4th book, and thankfully, a lot of the times when, like, people are kind of, like, introduced for the first time in that book, even if we've already met them in the series, oh my god, me, like, forgetting names. Rose, there we go. Rose, as narrator, will be like, and I was so excited to see Mia again, which 3 months ago, I never would have thought would come out of my mouth. Like, something like that. And then she, like, goes into the explanation of, like, who Mia is and, like, why that's so shocking. I don't know. That's just an example. Like, and that's kind of what happened in the 3rd book, is that they saw Mia again. And I was like, oh yeah, like, why isn't she, like, in this book? But she explains things a lot, which is kind of annoying when you're, like, binge reading them. Like, I read the first 3, like, pretty succinctly. With more time passing, that'll be really good when I actually get to the other books in the series and finish Blood Promise. It's only 6 books, so I'm, like, halfway through. Yes. Okay, and then books that I was thinking about reading earlier this year and didn't end up reading. Basically, the stack that you see next to me. In no particular order. Me just, like, questioning which one to grab. So I actually recently bought Being There. I found this used online by Jerzy Kosiński? I've never actually thought about like saying his name out loud, but there we go. This is very short. I found like a PDF file online of the book, and I was going to like very quickly read the book when I got the movie. Ew, was that last year or was that the beginning of the year? I don't remember at this point, but I got it from Criterion during one of the sales in the past year, and I was going to read it on this PDF, but like I had to download the PDF and I wasn't familiar with the website, and I was like, I'm not gonna do it. I put it off, and then I just ended up finding this really nice copy actually. Kind of smells like paint thinner though. Yeah, it's a really strong smell too. Oh my god. Yeah, and I'm glad that I found this copy that isn't the movie cover version, or like doesn't have Peter Sellers on it. So am going to read this month. It's like 100 pages, like I said. And I can also read it along with listening to the audiobook because I found that on YouTube, which I realized I could have just listened to the audiobook and then watched the movie, but I don't know, there's something about it that like made me want to physically read it also. Then, so exciting, the Nutcracker. I do have the Tales of Hoffmann, which I haven't read yet, but at least I want to get to the Nutcracker. So this edition includes E.T.A. Hoffmann's Nutcracker and Mouse King as well, that's the full title, Nutcracker and Mouse King. I didn't mean to make that sound like two separate stories. And then Alexandre Dumas' The Tale of the Nutcracker. So I'm so excited to read this, both stories, but definitely Hoffmann since that's the original, and I just absolutely love the Nutcracker. I'm going to be listening to, oh my gosh, I should listen to it while I'm reading it. Okay, oh my god, brilliant idea. And I mean, I could just use Spotify, but I also have the record of the ballet suite. I'm very excited because the Nutcracker is like one of my favorite things, and especially around Christmas, like, just catch me like always talking about the Nutcracker, constantly listening to the Nutcracker. Whenever there's a Nutcracker, like, in a movie, whenever my mom's watching, like, a Christmas movie on, like, the Hallmark Channel or something, and they have, like, ginormous Nutcrackers or, like, Nutcracker decorations, she's like, Bailey, look at it! Like, even, I don't need to see, I know what a Nutcracker looks like. Oh, I have this little Nutcracker on my shelves. Always on my shelves. It doesn't matter what time of the year it is, because I don't know where to put him so that he doesn't get broken. Doesn't get broken. Great. Love that. The Nutcracker. I got that relatively recently. Eileen by Otessa Moshfegh. This takes place in December, like around Christmas time, and I read my Year of Rest and Relaxation within like a few days, I'm pretty sure, so I'm thinking about reading this around Christmas time, which sounds kind of funny because I'm pretty sure, there's like one great sentence on here. In a Hitchcockian twist, her affection for Rebecca ultimately pulls her into complicity in a crime that surpasses her wildest imaginings. Does not at all sound like a Christmas tale, but it takes place around Christmas. So that's why it's on my list here. And I know I can finish it relatively quick if I just decided to spend a couple days focusing on it. Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. I started this like a handful of years ago now. I still have my bookmark in it on page 66 and 67, like middle of the chapter. I'm going to start it over, but every year, December and January feel like the perfect, like November, December, January, like those feel like the perfect months for reading this. And once those months pass, I'm like, can't read Wuthering Heights anymore. Even though that's not the case. So it's on my list to finally get to again. It's okay if it happens like in January though. Yeah, then we have some like summer TBR stuff here. These ones were for sure on my summer TBR. The Age of Innocence by Edith Wharton. Actually, this time of year seems pretty good for this. Interestingly enough, like, for some reason, these books that I was like, yeah, summertime vibes, also is like kind of working for winter as well. So, The Age of Innocence. I have this 100th anniversary edition. I realize I'm like not going into premises here. So anyway, Age of Innocence, that's a classic. You guys, remember when I was like, I'm starting this immediately? And then I didn't read for a whole month. That's what happened. A Certain Hunger by Chelsea G. Summers, and Jennifer from her channel name is just her name, Jennifer Brooks. She talks about books, but also likes K-pop. I mentioned her in my, interestingly enough, I mentioned her in my, was it my summer video? Or was it it was my mid-year freak out, mid-year book freak out tag. Yeah, but I did those very close together. Anyway, she actually recently read this, and I was like, all right, I need to get to this. It has to happen. It's happening. Remember the wild premise? Do you remember? Also, I'm thinking about, like, making a video. Maybe I should not just, like, throw this into the ether. I'm sure somebody else has thought of this, but, I'm sure I'm not the only person who has, like, noticed the increase of, like, cannibal media. You know what I mean? And, A Certain Hunger falls into that genre, if you want to call it a genre. Bunny by Mona Awad. I did not actually have this at the time that I mentioned it, but now I do, and Dark Academia, murder, probably, because, like, what is Dark Academia if there's not murder? Right? Okay, Poor Things! Oh my goodness. So I didn't mention this in, like, a reading-related video, or, like, a TBR, but this is currently being adapted. I haven't read it. I just mentioned that I was astounded when I heard that it was being adapted, because I do know what it's about, and I've heard things, and now that I hold it physically, the images are, well, disturbing, to say the least. So, Poor Things by Aleister Gray. Probably, I was thinking about reading that in October, and then again, I just didn't get to it. But December is also fine. And then, besides the Mayfair Witches trilogy, I don't think I'm going to get to this month, but Once the Sun Enough by Jacqueline Suzanne is something that I think I want to focus on in January. I want it to be one of the first books that I read besides the Mayfair Witches trilogy and books in series that I'm reading. So, I don't really know what this is about, to be honest, but it's Jacqueline Suzanne, author of Valley of the Dolls. I'm assuming this is going to be in the same realm, as well as maybe deal more with, like, film, since it looks like there's, like, a pseudo Oscar on the cover here. So, there we go. This is, as usual, longer than I intended. These are the books I'm contemplating reading for the end of the year. How are you going to spend your last month of 2022? And I mean, I'm going to try to, like, watch a bunch of things as well. I don't think there's too much on my list right now, that, like, has to be in December. There's not too much going off oh my god, there's not too much going off the Criterion channel that I want to see that I haven't seen yet. But if you haven't seen The Vampires yet, Les Vampyres, the miniseries that I mentioned from 1915 to 1916 from Louis Feuillade, watch it. It's going off the Criterion channel. If you have the Criterion channel, it's going off at the end of the month. It's so good. So, just need to plug that really quickly. Okay, this has gone on long enough. Thank you for watching. What do you planning on reading in December? Oh, also, I always think about reading Great Expectations, but I really already have a good stack here. I really also still need to reorganize. Yes. Also, I'm getting new lighting soon, you guys. New lighting. All right. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.